Today, my guest is Harsha Vachher. Harsha is a seasoned IT professional with diversified experience in various areas of the Internet of Things and security for verticals including smart building, smart city, smart home, logistics, and wearables. Having worked with companies like Tata Communications, Bentall Grid Oil, HCL Technology, and SafeNet, Harsha has been preventing cyber threats and protecting building systems for the last 15 years. She is the founder and CEO of K-Tech Labs, a real estate cybersecurity consulting firm supporting building owners and facility teams to defend their building systems from cyber threats. It's my honor and pleasure to have Harsha in our podcast today. Let's start. Hello, Harsha. How are you today?
Hello, David. I'm good. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
And thank you for accepting my invitation. It's a real pleasure to have you today on my podcast because we will talk, of course, of value stream, of value management, but from a very different perspective that what I was used to in the previous episode. And that's why I think for our listeners, that will be something that could be really interesting. Because as I said when I introduced you, you are focused on, and correct me if I'm wrong or just add some additional things about yourself, but you are specializing your activities on cybersecurity and on Internet of Things, right?
That's correct. My background is masters in computer application. So with my previous job experience, I started K-Tech Labs and focus is on cybersecurity, but specific to IoT and real estate.
Okay, so as you know, our podcast is called Value Streams. So we really focus on how we can, IT can contribute on value realization. And my first question to you is, how does cybersecurity and how IoT contribute to realize value for service stakeholders?
That's a great question, David. But before I answer the question for the audience, just in plain terms, what IoT or Internet of Things is. So
Yeah.
it's all about devices, like devices of all sorts that take data and with harnessing the power of connectivity, it provides a seamless experience to customers, to business. So with the power of data, you can get the insights of your surroundings, of your health with wearable devices. Now, IoT cybersecurity is a very critical component for the rapid growing IoT market. So it's all about how to secure connectivity of these devices, both in digital world and in physical world. So, now you must have heard IoT everywhere, like in all the market domains. With its popularity, it comes with various security related issues. And cybersecurity risk is the prime. So I'll just give you an example. Like in February 2022, hackers launched a ransomware attack on KP Snacks. It's a food company in the UK. And the attack disrupted the company operations, prompting it to declare that there would be a shortage of roasted nuts and potato chips. So you can now understand the magnitude of any such attack on IoT or the environment. So cybersecurity risk, it impacts the entire company. But some decisions maker or some people assume that it's a problem that's related to IT department alone. So to increase the value realization, I would say design a cybersecurity program that focuses on continuous exposure and third-party risk management. And have a business aligned cybersecurity reporting, not only like a cybersecurity reporting that's related to your IT, but what's your business and what's the impact on the business. Have the reporting that focuses on your business values to increase the security performance. And the most important, raise cybersecurity awareness. Like people are the first line of defense. Educate them how to handle an attack, how to understand when there's an attack, look for signs. And then enhance your company's cybersecurity by improving your preparedness. Like be prepared for attack. It can happen anytime. And you should give company stakeholders the tool that they need to prepare for an event. Like you should be always ready for an attack, not like when an attack happened, then you are like, what to do now?
Oh, thank you. That's a great answer. If we continue with what you said about this attack and so on, I have the feeling that many people associate cybersecurity with protecting themselves and their organization from the attacks that come from external world, from hackers, as you mentioned in your example. But in reality, we also know that cybersecurity or the main threats are coming from inside the organization because people are already access to all your systems. I mean, employee, freelancers, contractors, and what do you advise for organization when you are talking about managing or defining the exposure of your organization? What would be your common advice on that in organization? Because I have the feeling that many people associate cybersecurity with Mars attacks, with attacks from the external world, whereas we know that the main threats for cybersecurity are insiders.
Yeah, absolutely. Like insider and outsider, external and internal threats. And like mainly the focus is on external threat. But to your point, like we often forget the insider threat, like your employees, freelancers, like you said, even your vendor partners. So, the low-hanging fruit, I would say, is implement the policy of having minimal access. Like many times what we do is even to our employees or to our vendor partner, we provide full access, like admin privileges, full access to the system or to any of a solution or to our facility. And that is often not monitored. But one should understand what's the need, what's the role, and what's the purpose of that access. And based on that, grant the appropriate access. If they only need read or supervisory access, grant them, and then associate a deadline to it, that it will expire in 3 months, 2 months, or continuously monitor. So, ask right questions, why you need that access, how long, and then provide the appropriate. This is the basic thing that we can do in order to protect these systems. And then one of the things that we commonly see is, because there's a lot of trust in employees and vendor partner, which is a good thing, but insider threats are real. So keeping that in mind, we should have this practice, and we have seen across, some of the organization that there's a trend of using common passwords and common username. So it's like me and you sharing a one username and password. So it's very difficult to understand who logged in and who did what, like maintain the audit trail.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that. So when we relate that to the creation of value, I still have the feeling that when we talk about cybersecurity and when we talk about risk management related to that, in fact, at the end of the day, we prevent loss of value, but do we really create value by managing, risk related to cybersecurity and all these IoT devices? Do we really create value, or do we just prevent value to be lost?
That's a very good question, David. But and I'll answer in a very different way. One of the challenges that I also faced when I started KTech Labs is it's very difficult to make people understand the value of cybersecurity.
Yes.
Because something that you don't see, it's hard to understand the value. You put IoT devices, you see, yes, there's a cool sensor, or there's a cool gadget. So you see that and you understand the value. But cybersecurity is something that you don't understand the real value. Now, coming to your question, do you prevent the loss of value or do you add value? What I would say is understanding the hacker's motive, and I'll talk specific to real estate because that's where my background is. If we prevent an attack on a building, we are not only preventing the loss of value, but we are also adding the value. Because if a building is secure and you can share with your stakeholders and your tenants that you have these measures that is put in place in a building and the whole digital world of a building, you gain their trust, and that you can monetize by increasing the leasing value of that property. So in a way, you are adding a value. Now, you are also preventing the loss of value because any cyber attack can lead to legal implications and can also, lead to your tenants having loss of trust in you and losing your tenants. So it's both ways. You prevent loss of value, but you also add value in a way. Property is secured. You increase the leasing value. Plus, with digitization, you are more than in your approach in implementing digitization, because the building is secure. You are adding security measures, so you don't fear to add IoT devices or adding digital things in your building. So with all this, it increases the value, it increases tenant retention and customer experience.
Oh, that's very interesting. So in other words, we can say that by using IoT also, and in this particular example, in fact, if we take the building as a product, you increase the intrinsic value of this product itself. So that's where you add the value. Yes, very interesting. Thank you for that. That's a good point. When we talk, when we talk about this, for instance, value streams we have now in service management and in industry, we always know that the value stream is triggered by a specific demand.
Yeah.
What are the most, I would say, common demands that we can have to treat in cybersecurity and IoT?
There are different sorts of demands. Some are driven by business needs. I would say, there's a need to digitize a building.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a need to put a solution, for example, occupancy monitoring in a building, or automated cleaning solution in a building, or to digitize heating and cooling in a building. Now, in order to digitize or put a solution in a building, you can put, but then if you add security to it, like I said, it's more secure and you have trust in the solution. So that's one way it is generated. But then also there are some regulations and there are some industry certifications which say in order for your building to be certified, you need to meet these criteria. So there are certain certifications that demands certain rules and regulations or certain policies and procedures to be in place in order for a building or for any product to be qualified.
Okay.
And then there are regulations around data, because IoT devices at the end is all about data. So it collects personal information. So there, and then your geographical information. So there are certain regulations like GDPR is there, PIPEDA is there. So that's standards, and that also drives the demand.
Yeah, and as I know a little bit of GDPR, it means that if you are not compliant with these requirements, you can pay very huge fines, up to
Yes.
4% of your annual turnover, something like that. So a lot of money. Yes, I know that, and thank you. I like I come back to your example of the of monitoring, for instance, the occupancy of building. This strikes me, it interests me in one way, is that in fact many organizations, I don't know how it is, but after the COVID, a lot of building, have been, let's say, empty, fully or partially, because many organizations, have this have set up this hybrid way of working. People working from home, people coming to the office. So what is your experience in that? Having how do organization, like for instance, that which are leasing spaces in building, do they really use these services like monitoring occupancy and then taking decision if they need to increase or decrease the space that they need to lease?
So, occupancy monitoring and has gained popularity after COVID to understand how tenants are, like how many people are coming in the building and how well the space is being utilized. But there are multiple usage because you collect data that how many people come to the building, but then use this data in various ways. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Like you know how many people enter the building at what time and how many people leave the building at what time. So based on that, you can understand when is the peak occupancy in a building.
Mm-hmm.
And then how well the space is being utilized, whether it's third floor, it's fourth floor, or your lobby, like, with people movement and different use cases of occupancy, you can also understand how well the space is being utilized, so that you can see if a space is underutilized, how to maximize the utilization and again turn it to monetize, like by increasing the leasing. And then based on occupancy data, you can also turn into different use cases. Like if people start coming in your building at 7 a.m. and then the maximum occupancy is between 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. people leave the building, maybe for lunch or for a walk outside. And then at 6 p.m. you see people started to leave. Based on that, you can optimize your heating and cooling.
Yeah.
Like you can automate that and you can save energy by automation. Then some of the use cases we have seen that based on occupancy and like different type of occupancy monitoring solution where you can also know like people entering the building and then going on which floor. So based on that, you can also automate your cleaning cycles of the washroom instead of maintaining regular washroom cycles where, okay, if there's less occupancy on a certain floor, you don't need to do the cleaning every 2 hours. You can optimize the cleaning cycle. So, with occupancy data, so many use cases can be tied to, increase the efficiency and saving cost.
That's very interesting. I never thought like that. So that's why I'm very happy that you are here today because, yes, now, I see a light bulbing and yeah, it's very good for me to have this kind of examples in mind. So when we talk about cybersecurity and IoT, for instance, let's stay in your field of expertise, which are the buildings. Are there some common like value streams that you can use, set of activities, if you can say it like that, in a value stream, like workflows and so on, as you say, based on these use cases, you would already describe some use cases like monitoring the occupancy, and that leads to adjusting, for instance, the cycle of cleaning the different part of the building and so on. But do you have any like predefined, based on this demand, predefined activities that can be triggered by this specific demand, and that we could, I would say, model as value streams for this particular area?
I was reading about value different frameworks. One of the things that I found that flow framework for value stream management. So I was reading that it categorizes distribution of demand from different stakeholders as flow items. And the categorization was on the basis of features, defect, risk, and debts. Now, if I map this flow framework of value stream management on the cybersecurity traits, So how I can map this is, so feature that delivers business functionality. So it can be any differentiator or a competitive advantage. So, like having a secure gateway of payment for parking systems. Like you are a shopper going to a mall and doing parking, so you have a secure payment gateway. Or a mobile app that has security features, or let's say a two-factor authentication. Then the second comes the quality factor for reliability. I mean, then reliability is something that's non-functional. Some people don't see a direct business value, but if you don't have that reliability factor in place, it sometimes disrupt business and customer experience. So for example, attributes when you do online shopping, or remote access to a building system that has security in it, which is like multi-factor authentication, and then a secure tunnel to log in to access the building system. That is something that you don't see, that's non-functional, but has an impact on business value if it's disrupted. The third thing that we already talked about is the compliance requirement, legislation, regulation like PCI, GDPR, or as simple as organizational policy. Like some organization, they have this policy of any solution that will get implemented should have multi-factor authentication, or different data policies. And then the last is risk reducing initiative. Anytime you put any technology or a solution, we always put that in with the mind that it will increase tenant experience, it's going to increase efficiency, operational efficiency, save time, save cost. But what we miss is, there's a possibility of something bad can happen, and we really need to weigh what's the impact and what's the likelihood of something bad happening. Like, what are the chances? And do we have adequate countermeasures? So, for example, while putting any IoT solutions in place, how can we reduce the risk? Understand the solution. If there are any certification that the device needs to be certified, check for that. Check the technology, check how it is deployed, and meet the end-to-end security. So by that, we can reduce the risk of anything bad happening.
Again, very, very well elaborated answer. Thank you for that. I like the idea of categorizing the demands you have for a value stream. As you said, for instance, you were talking about the defect, the features, the risk. You mentioned also the technical debt, right?
Yes.
What could be an example of a technical debt in the world of cybersecurity and IoT? Do you have an example?
I'm not able to think anything of a technical debt, but there are certain implications, like I've seen contracts where, any data breach can lead to certain, liabilities are there associated with the contract. That is one thing that's coming to my mind. Other than that, haven't seen any such example. But yeah, data breach can cost this. And then indirect costs are always there, losing a tenant because of a breach, or, in a residential property, if there's a breach, you lose, like people start to look out for some other place to live.
Okay,
that's
good.
The indirect debt. But I mean, not directly, but yes, indirect.
Yeah. And we talk a lot in this podcast today of cybersecurity and Internet of Things. Where are we in terms of the adoption curve, I would say, in IoT, and what can be the trends you see in the next? I know it's a difficult question to ask somebody, what are the trends? I know that you don't have a crystal ball to know the future, but according to your experience and to the different customers you have, what can be the trends in cybersecurity and IoT? Do we expect anything new happening, for instance, in the next 5 years, technologically speaking, or in other part of it?
IoT is gaining popularity in all these spaces, and we have seen a massive increase in IoT solutions adoption in real estate. For the simple reason, like occupancy monitoring, not only you understand the occupancy, but then you tie it to different systems like your heating, your cleaning to optimize that. There are things like, vibration sensors or different sensors that monitor any asset, like your pumps, your chillers, your elevators, that tells the functioning so that before it really breaks down that it need maintenance.
Okay.
And like there are so many other examples like parking, putting sensors, the parking utilization and parking space available, not available, occupied. Like there are n number of examples in real estate with IoT. So definitely we'll see an increase in adoption of different IoT solutions. The change that we have started to see is now people are demanding more and more security measures, certifications, whether your device is certified, whether your device has like what type of communication is there. LoRaWAN is gaining popularity these days. So instead of putting devices on cellular network and in silo, we are seeing an increase in use cases where there are LoRaWAN, like it's a low power long range communication. Like you set up your own LoRaWAN environment and then put solution on LoRaWAN. So you have a unified communication for all the IoT devices. So and then people ask for things like penetration testing of the solution, pen test reports on annual basis. They ask for security assessment so that you test the device, you test the cloud software, you test the connectivity to understand what are the vulnerabilities, and then tell the vendor to mitigate or take care of certain things before you put a solution. So definitely increase in adoption, but with increase in, more focus on security and not only technology and its benefit, but also keeping in mind that it has to be secure. Because, with the expansion of IoT, we are also seeing increase in attacks. So, and then these devices, they are like very small devices, not like our laptops where you can, have firewalls or antivirus or any other security applications. That's why one of the things that we are seeing is people are more aware of security and are starting to watch or assess a solution before putting in a building.
There are also things that already happened for a long time. If we think of the drones, for instance, that the drones originally were, of course, not designed to their current usage, for instance, military usage and so on. So maybe in the future there will be like other cases like that where a sync, a communicating thing like a drone, his usage will change over time. Do you think it can happen in other type of device?
I mean, I am not that much well versed with, but yes, in terms of device, we are seeing, a lot of focus on the type of chip and the type of software and the type of communication device manufacturers are using. And then with industry, having the security thing in mind, plus a change that we are seeing is data privacy is taking priority with IoT devices pulling data. So companies are asking what data and are really implementing data privacy policies. Then multi-factor authentication, that is becoming a gold standard of authentication, and then mobile security, having specialized softwares, and then criminals exploiting Android devices. So we are seeing an increase in that as well. So it's changing. Things that people were more focusing on the IT side. Now we are seeing the same, not at the same level, but equally watching the security on these IoT devices and what's there in the building.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoy this podcast. You are a very good specialist and very highly skilled in that field. I really appreciate that. I would love to talk for longer time with you on that. Um, Unfortunately for us, of course, our time is limited in this podcast. Unfortunately or fortunately for the listeners, because they don't have to listen to my French accent so dumb. But on the other hand, I would like to ask you, what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you, because you are a specialist that who deserve to be known and who can advise a lot of different organizations on your domain of expertise. What is the best way to reach you, Arsha?
Thank you for asking, David. So I am active on LinkedIn. So on my LinkedIn profile, if you reach out, send a message, I'll get in touch with the person.
Thank you very much, Arsha. As I said, it was my pleasure to have you today in our podcast. And I wish you the best for this year, because we are still in the beginning of the year, so we can still have a lot of wishes that we can share together, and for the rest of your career. And I'm sure that we will have you maybe once again or twice in our podcast to see how all this cybersecurity and IoT evolve in real estate, but maybe generally speaking. Thank you, Asha.
Thank you so much.